Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, at the Foreign Correspondents Club and our viewers watching our live stream on Facebook. I'm Gwen Robinson, the President of the Foreign Correspondents Club of Thailand and Editor-at-Large of the Nikkei Asian Review. And as we all know, tonight we're here to discuss the African horse sickness lessons from Thailand. I would also like to say before we start, to remind we have a few excellent programs coming up after this, including next Tuesday a very interesting panel to discuss China's post-COVID strategy in Southeast Asia with the author of an excellent new book on China in Southeast Asia. And on Wednesday, the 19th, we will have a panel looking at the future of education in Thailand. So don't miss those. They'll also be live streamed on Facebook. Also, to remind, hello, could we have some silence back there? To remind viewers watching on Facebook are welcome to send questions in and they will be asked for you from the floor. So please just send questions and we will, after the panel discussion, turn to also questions and answers from the floor. So save your queries for after our initial discussions. Just to briefly introduce this panel, I think it's safe to say that had Thailand not been gripped by the fear of COVID-19 from March onwards, the advent of African horse sickness here and the death of nearly 600 horses would have actually been a major story. But as it is, as we know, the story in the eyes of many who actually tracked it, particularly in the crisis-hit areas which are dominated by horse farms, including agriculture, dressage, polo and horse racing, really did not get the coverage it deserved, neither about the impact of the disease nor its origins. Actually, African horse sickness was first reported in Thailand on March the 25th after reports of sudden deaths amongst horses in Nakhon Ratchasima. But subsequent investigations showed that there had been unexplained deaths of horses from late February. And from then on, and we'll hear from one of our panellists whose horses began dying in late February with no explanation of what was causing it. From there, though, as we know now, the disease, which is carried by little midges, spread to other parts of the country. By late July, more than 560 horses had died, even as the government, health experts and horse owners were working frantically to contain the outbreak and acquire the appropriate vaccines. The disease, we can say now, I think, is believed to have entered Thailand via asymptomatic zebras imported from Africa, most likely South Africa and Namibia, which were not subjected to biosecurity screening under regulations. As it seems from the media reports, the animals were being transshipped through Thailand by business interests linked to animal parks. Scientific analysis showed the virus appeared most closely related to two field strains originating from South Africa. These cases, Thailand's first ever, have raised questions about quarantine procedures and how such a crisis should be handled. The Department of Livestock Development of the Ministry of Agriculture and the Thailand Equestrian Federation, both of which are represented on our panel tonight, have been at the front line of acquiring AHS vaccines in an attempt to stop the fatal equine disease from spreading. So I think as of the end of January, more than 7,500 horses had been vaccinated. No new cases have been reported in July, although there is clearly some reports afoot of deaths since then. In addition to procuring vaccines, there have been some very strict control measures, including a ban on transporting all equine species from 15 provinces where AHS was detected and these have been put in place to minimise the contagion risk. So to update us on the saga and shed light on the many still unexplained mysteries, our expert panel from the Thai equestrian and equine veterinarian community are here tonight to discuss the implications for Thailand and surrounding countries, and I think very usefully give some insights that might provide lessons for countries in the surrounding region. So I'd just like to briefly introduce our panellists. From at the front here, on my immediate right, the far left looking from the floor, is Krun Prutirat Serirongrit, owner of the Horses Endurance Stable in Thailand. Next to him is Dr. Siraya Chunakamrai, equine veterinarian, AHS Task Force member with the Ministry of Agriculture, Department of Livestock Development, and Vice President of the World Small Animals Veterinary Association. Next to her is Miss Margot Toei, who is a Bangkok-based journalist for Bloomberg News, who has reported extensively on the African horse sickness. Right next to me is Kun Nara Ketsing, Secretary General of the Thai Equestrian Federation. And next to him in the centre there is Dr. Nopidon Sarapala, owner of the farm Morpaw and a well-known figure in the equestrian and medical community. And finally, last but not very least, is Dr. Sit Premasdira, Bureau of Disease Control and Veterinary Services with the Department of Livestock Development. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Before we turn to the discussion, and we'll hear from each panellist in a row and then have some discussion, we're going to show you a very short video of a Thai PBS report on the African horse sickness in Thailand, which was actually done in April, but still stands as one of the most balanced reports. It was very kindly subtitled by production house Asia Works, a long-time member and supporter of the FCCT. Thank you very much. And we'll just turn to the video now. Kuntam, thank you. Maybe we can dim the lights above briefly.
นี่คือสภาพม้าในฟาร์มแห่งหนึ่งของอำเภอมวกเหล็กจังหวัดสระบุรีที่เพิ่งตายจากโรคการะโรคแอฟริกาในม้าช่วงเช้าวันนี้และนับเป็นม้าตัวแรกที่พบว่าตายด้วยโรคนี้ในอำเภอมวกเหล็กทำให้อำเภอนี้กลายเป็นพื้นที่ระบาดใหม่ทันทีม้าที่ติดเชื้อไวรัสโรคการะโรคแอฟริกาทุกตัวจะแสดงอาการคล้ายกันและจะตายหลังจากมีอาการป่วยประมาณ 2-3 ชั่วโมงอย่างเช่นม้าตัวนี้อยู่ในฟาร์มเดียวกับตัวที่เพิ่งตายมีอาการซึมมีไข้ริมฝีปากและเปลือกตาบวมกับคิ้วมันตรงคิ้วมันปกติจะเป็นหลุมก่อนหน้านี้อำเภอปากช่องจังหวัดนครราชสีมาพื้นที่ติดต่อกับอำเภอมวกเหล็กถูกระบุว่าเป็นศูนย์กลางการแพร่ระบาดของเชื้อไวรัสการะโรคแอฟริกาในม้าและขณะนี้ยังไม่สามารถควบคุมการระบาดได้ม้าเพศเมียวัย1 ขวบ 2 เดือนที่เจ้าของเรียกว่าแอนนี่ได้รับการดูแลอย่างดีที่ไร่แห่งหนึ่งในอำเภอปากช่องจังหวัดนครราชสีมาเพราะก่อนหน้านี้ไม่กี่วันม้าที่เลี้ยงไว้อีก2 ตัวเพิ่งตายไปหลังจากมีอาการซึมไม่กินอาหารและปากบวมเขาบอกว่าที่ผ่านมาเลี้ยงม้าเพื่อนันทนาการทั้งหมด3 ตัวทุกวันนี้เขาจึงดูแลแอนนี่ม้าที่เหลืออยู่เพียงตัวเดียวด้วยการก่อกองไฟตลอดทั้งวันทั้งคืนเพื่อให้ควันไฟไล่แมลงดูดเลือดและริ้นพาหะของเชื้อไวรัสการะโรคแอฟริกาในม้าวันที่ไทย PBS ลงพื้นที่พบว่าแอนนี่เริ่มมีอาการซึมแต่เจ้าของยังตั้งใจว่าม้าตัวนี้จะรอดจากโรคร้ายและเตรียมสั่งซื้อมุ้งกันแมลงเพื่อล้อมคอก
อาการมันก็จะซึมเสร็จปุ๊บมันก็จะลงนอนนะตานี่จะแดง
ไม่กี่ชั่วโมงอาการแอนนี่เริ่มทรุด
น้ำมูกหลังจากเสียชีวิตแล้ว
ไม่ถึง24 ชั่วโมงหลังจากอาการเริ่มทรุดม้าตัวนี้ก็ตาย สัตวแพทย์ให้ข้อมูลว่าโรคกระโรคแอฟริกาในม้าเป็นเชื้อไวรัสที่เพิ่งพบการแพร่ระบาดในประเทศไทยเป็นครั้งแรกโดยมีหลักฐานทางวิชาการว่ามากับสัตว์ป่านำเข้าจากแอฟริกาอย่างเช่นม้าลายโดยมีริ้นและแมลงดูดเลือดเป็นพาหะนำโรคตัวหลักเชื้อนี้จะมีปฏิกิริยารุนแรงกับม้าหากรับเชื้อแล้วอัตราการตายสูงถึง95%
โรคนี้เกิดอยู่ใน4ชนิดนี้เป็นหลักนะคะก็คือม้าลายม้าลาล่อในทั้งหมดนี้ค่ะม้าเนี่ยจะมีความอ่อนแอหรือมีความไวต่อการติดเชื้อมากที่สุดเขาก็จะป่วยแล้วก็ตายอัตราการตายเกือบ 100%
ปัจจุบันสัตวแพทย์เร่งควบคุมโรคในพื้นที่โรคกระโรคแอฟริกาในม้าระบาด7จังหวัดโดยเข้าฉีดวัคซีนป้องกันให้ม้าในรัศมี50กิโลเมตรจากจุดเกิดโรคให้แล้วเสร็จภายใน2สัปดาห์นี้รายงานสถานการณ์โรคกระโรคแอฟริกาในม้าล่าสุดพบว่ามีม้าตายสะสม457ตัวทั่วประเทศเฉพาะพื้นที่อำเภอปากช่องจังหวัดนครราชสีมามีม้าตาย389ตัวและเริ่มระบาดไปยังอำเภอมวกเหล็กจังหวัดสระบุรีเพราะเป็นพื้นที่เชื่อมต่อกับอำเภอปากช่องและเตรียมประกาศเป็นพื้นที่เร่งควบคุมโรคใหม่วาทินี นาวริศวิน ไทย PBS รายงาน
Can we have the lights, please?
นี่คือสภาพม้า
Thank you very much. Right, so that was a very sober scene setter, and to follow up on that, we'll hear first from Krun Putirat Serirongrit, owner of the Horse Endurance Stable, who was one of the first horse owners to have this experience back in February, which is way before media reported that it was African horse sickness. So, Krun Putirat, over to you, please.
Good evening, everybody. First of all, I would like to thank you, FCCT, to invite me to speak a little bit about the ASS happened in Thailand. My name is Putirat Nakhon Ratchasima. I'm an endurance rider, and I have a hot breeding Arabian horse in Thailand. My farm stay at Khao Yai. On the last days of February, our first horse is died. And that time nobody know about that because the horse is very old, and my vet said is maybe have a colic. So we learn interesting about it, what happened about the horse in that time. But after 10 days, another horse is come. He died on the paddock. He is a young horse. And the vet is come, and we're looking for the bother and to find what happened for the horse, and still thinking about the colic. And after 10 days again, the third horse is coming. And the horse is, in that time, I go to the paddock and I saw the horse stay, and it's not normal. So I talked to my groom to bring the horse to the stable to check everything, and they said they had a high temperature, about 40 Celsius. And after that, we put some medicine, and the temperature has come down, it's normal. But after that, I drive back to Bangkok. My groom called to me that the horse is died already. It's very quick about that. So I very surprised, and I will talk to my vet. It's not a normal time because our farm never have a horse die like this. And when we talk about the groom, that he said another horse is the same, like the third horse. So I talked to my vet to bring the horse to the hospital in Kamphaeng San, but he died on the truck. And after that, Dr. Ali said to me that we have to check about it very clearly. And I said, yes, please do it because this is normal. And another 3 days, she called to me, sure it's the horse died with a virus, and not sure it's about the ASS or Hendra. And after that, they said, confirm it's the ASS. And she asked me, what we have to do? I want to talk to the livestock department. I said, yes, please do it because it's not normal. So and after that, I think the light department store is around about 27 of March about this AS. And that time, I lost a lot of horse. Only 7 days, I lost 27 horse in the same time. In that time, it's very difficult to handling because nobody know about this AS. I don't know how to do. In the first time, we try to separate all the horse to keep it some horse on safe space. I think it can control about that. But the horse we breeding the horse, we keep the horse at the paddock. So all the horse in the paddock is dead. And my sport horse for endurance, dead 3 horse. And Dr. Ali said, we have to put the horse in the net. So in that time, we can save about 28 horse. But in that time, I lost but may. I keep this for 10 years already. We do for breeding 10 years. We have the good horse. We can send the horse to sell in Malaysia and export to some country already. And all the horse in the paddock, we have a customer. And in that time, only 7 days, everything is gone. Yeah. And I lost 3 horse from endurance horse. And they have experience and they have a good horse, can go to World Championship. And only 7 days we lost them. So every time when I talking about this, I really very sad about it. And now is, okay, after that, our horse have the vaccine. So we still fighting with the AS. We keep the horse in the net 24 hours. And in that time, it's not normal for the horse to stay in the net. And we have to put air condition because when we put on the net, inside the stable is very hot. And the horse cannot stay like that. So we put the air condition, we put the fan and everything to make it calm down and cool down. And that time, the thing is, all my horse is good cooperation with the groom because Arabian horse is the horse brat. He not stay like that, but in that time, they know about what happened. So the horse can stay only in the net 40 days, I think. After that, we got a vaccine, so the horse have to stay. I don't remember about the date, but almost 60 days in the net. And that time, some horse show something. It's not from the vaccine. I have 28 horse, but one horse only have the problem with the vaccine. But after 3 days, he will fire. But another 27 never show about the sign of the vaccine. So that I can explain about that. And it's very sad because I'm the rider. Every week we go to ride for 5 days, but now it's 5 months already. I never ride my horse again because every time when I saw my horse, I not have the emotion to ride. And when I saw that, I don't know, AS will be stopped at what day. So I use this time to try to explain what happened in my farm, but I hope somebody to take care about this can stop this happen. If somebody have some question after this, please ask me again. And sorry for my English, and my English not perfectly. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Kun Pritirat, for actually, I think you got your point across extremely clearly. So very sobering. We'll come back to you, and next we'll hear from Kun Nara Ketsing of the Thai Equestrian Federation, and also Kun Nara, maybe you could give us an idea of your membership. I mean, what kind of members do you have? Does it represent broadly across the horse owning and riding community? Over to you.
Thank you very much, Gwen. First of all, I would like to thank you, FCCT, for inviting me for to be a part of the panel. Thank you, Mark, Asia Work, for the subtitle in English, which is, we already have it in Thai for the Thai PBS. My name is Narat Ketusing, Secretary General of Thailand Equestrian Federations. We are the federation that look after the 117 clubs, affiliate members under the Thailand Equestrian Federation in the whole countries. So for the AHS situation in Thailand, as Kun Pan Putirat has mentioned earlier, it never happened in Thailand before. So which means we never know what is going on, what is happening. If I may start with the timeline, as Kun Pan mentioned, he is the member that notified the Thailand Equestrian Federation that at his place had sudden horse death case. So we should alert our member. As a TEF, we're not the authority to announce the outbreak. So at that time, I think on 25th of March, we sent the notification letter through our members, report about the death case in our member clubs. That sudden death case happened in Pak Chong, Khorat at that time. I think it's alert a lot of people, especially our member. Only that time we can do and make the statement in the letter is just to prevent this and to help this is to stop horse movement. To be sure that if it's a virus, it will not spread out to any other areas. A day later, Livestock Department, thank you very much, that they has announced the outbreak in Thailand on the 27th March 2020, which means it's automatic suspend by the OIE, the World Organization for Animal Health, that Thailand is the red zone. Red zone in this term, this means it's the outbreak countries. So we cannot be able to move our horse. We cannot export our horse to any countries. So by that time, the Livestock Department also announced the control measure and investigation type of virus, also the control measure about the vector control. Suddenly, it's called attention to our board committee, the Thailand Equestrian Federation Committee, Mr. Howling, the president of Thailand Equestrian Federations, also Kun Pongthep Jerawanon, the vice president, that we record about how to deal with this outbreak. Both of them has support the local community by donation. The Kun Harold donate 20 kilometers net to the local people. Also, Kun Pongthep is also donate the first lot of vaccine, 4,000 doses. This is not including the private sector. I think everybody here, including the riding member who are here, also support the net in for the local community for the donation campaign. At the same time, the Thailand Equestrian Federation has appointed the TEF task force, which is including myself, Kun Putirat, Kun Pan here, and Kun Thaw, is the part of the channel to monitor and seeking for the solution and also plan for the possible way to resume for the free status of the country, together with the livestock department. The control measure is also including the vaccine campaign to do in the infected area. We are talking about the core area, 20 kilometers, also the protection area in 50 kilometers, and also surveillance that we consider another 100 areas. But the vaccine can stop the rate of infection only. They can stop and the rate of infection is getting better, but just only some missing area that unexpected province still have some case. This, from what I learned, is the latest case is in 24th of July in Phetchaburi. Control measure, apart from the vaccination campaigns, they're also including the biosecurity, vector control, no movement, and vaccine campaign is just only prevention and protection of our horses. And afterwards, we proposed to the livestock department to have a cooperation with all stakeholders, which is we have the PPP. It's mean public-private partnership. So livestock department tried to gather all 18 organizations to be cooperate in order to have the same goal is to eradicate the African horse sickness disease and also re-status of the countries and control measure for the suspect animal zebras. What is come to our intention is the impact of the equestrian sport when this outbreak start in Thailand. It means we cancel all the competitions, all the event in Thailand because our members, our athletes, our horse owner cannot move the horse. Two, of course, we cannot just only thinking about the local competition, also international competitions, because we get suspension from the OIE. Even the international that organize it in land, but international rider cannot enter to Thailand because they cannot return to their countries due to the status of the Thailand. Of course, we cannot export our horses to the games because we are the one who responsible on sending the team to the games, which means I'm talking about the SEA Games, Asian Games, and Olympic Games. And big impact to all, not just only the equestrian society, is all the local people, all the local horses, is welfare of the horses in the countries. Luckily that we have the 3 qualified riders for the eventing team for the Olympic 2020s. Their horses is based in Europe. So we still have the way to go from Europe to Tokyo. But can you imagine if the horse of the athlete are based in Thailand during the time that the outbreak happened in Thailand, which means no more games, no more chance for Thai rider to go and participate in the Olympic Games. And of course, for the next SEA Games in 2022 in China, the most likely we have to send the horse from Europe or from any other continent to participate in the games. The problems when this happened, now I think everybody, we need the OIE status back to resume the normal activities, but we have to prove the AHS eradicated from Thailand during next 2 years. If any horse die again during this period, which means we have to reset and start counting 0 again. Also, what we learned today, zebra, who is the suspect animal bringing the AHS to the Thailand, it tests positive. And how do we know that? The livestock department zebra trim has random sampling 10% of each location, including the open zoo, breeding facility, and export facility. 4 locations out of 6 locations positive. And one of the big open zoo in Bangkok still didn't get tested. What to do with the zebra? Livestock department come up with the measure control to quarantine 60 days, which is 60 days we wish virus can be eradicated by themselves, or it can be spread out as a second times. I think we need proactive measure. We do a lot of things for our horse, which means we put our horse in the net, we vaccinate them, we follow the control measure what livestock department has been announced. And again, we cannot avoid that the zebra is still reservoir for the virus. And again, it's too risky for the second wave and should not compromise to eradicate the virus in this group. How? There are so many ways that has been advised to put them to sleep, vaccinate them, or at least all zebra must be tested. All zebra must be tested because of it's now just only the random sampling. From what I understand from the expert, it's a little bit difficult to do the testing because we have to dart them, and because of the when we need to get the blood, we need to dart them, and also, you know, the medicine that we have to use with them, I think we have a limited number in Thailand. But can you imagine about before they fly to and arrive here, they test negative, and not only the AHS, but with the other as well, with the other disease as well. There's a lot of criticism about the welfare of the zebra, but I think if we're talking about that, 24 under the cover with the quarantine is again the wildlife welfare and also working horse as well. I think wildlife welfare has been violated since we put them on the plane to come to Thailand. And I think the country will not be the AHS free if the zebra is still positive and needs to be more serious and proactive action to stop them. And lastly, Thailand government should consider to stop no longer to be a gateway for wildlife export. This is because can you imagine most of the disease nowadays or even in the past is came with the wildlife. SARS, MERS, COVID, and including AHS. We, together even with the Steve from Freelance, that a month before we also doing on this campaign with the Freelance to stop to be the gateway for the wildlife. Also this support by Mr. Harold Link, the chairman of the Bee Grims, Kerry State to support this idea as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kunnara, for bringing us up to date on so many fronts, including the news after months of rumours and speculations. I gather it's out there now that the role of the zebra import, even for transshipment, and also citing the work of Freeland representatives are here in this room tonight, and on the wildlife trafficking front. So I would like to turn now to the DLD representative with us tonight, Dr. Sit Premasutira, also I think a very qualified vet on the AHS task force with the Department of Livestock Development of the Ministry of Agriculture, who I hope can maybe throw even more light on this question of where it came from, how and why the zebras were here, and so on. I think, Dr. Sit, you have a presentation, so we'll leave it to you to run through that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Gwen, and thank you for the club FCCT for invite DLD to be here to talk about the African horse sickness. I was assigned by the Director General of the DLD to communicate with you and to update the situation and discuss about the impact of this disease in Thailand also. So first of all, I am a veterinarian in the Department of Livestock Development and not directly actually not direct as the task force for the African horse sickness, but I am in the epidemiology team of the Department of Livestock Development. Just want to say about this. Yeah. Okay, the African horse sickness situation and control measures in Thailand I will present in the PowerPoint slide. Okay, up to yesterday, this is the map show the point of the outbreak in Thailand. As you can see in the, there are a couple cluster in the central area of and the western area of Thailand, and also in the eastern region. And the cumulative case up to now is 607. Cumulative deaths is 565 horse that died. And the case fatality rate is 93.1%. That means 100 horses that 6 from this disease are gonna die for 93. Yeah. And number of farms affected is 129 farms affected from this disease. And the province affected, up to now, there are 15 provinces. And also the number of districts affected currently is 31 districts. And this slide, I would like to explain you about the vaccination campaign. And just want to let you know that is our vaccination plan is also based on the epidemiological risk assessment and also the situation in the field. These figures not show like the vaccination plan, but this is the epidemiological risk map for African horse sickness in Thailand that we did around May. That's around 1 month after African horse sickness occurred in Thailand, and we use this data also with the situation, the cases reported, a date reported in the area to plan for the vaccination area. And the number of the African horse sickness vaccination up to now, number of provinces to be vaccinated is 20. And number of target horse to vaccinate is about 11,000. And number of horse vaccinated up to now is 8,600. And it's about 75% from the target. And the number of farm vaccinated is 1,340. And this is the epidemic curve. As you can see, the very first case was reported at the end of March, and we also notified the OIE. As Kunara said that after we notified to the OIE, that means status of our country was suspended for the AHS free. And when the AHS, when Thailand got the status free, I was there in the ceremony of the get the certification from the OIE. That's about 5 years ago. Is that is the past, but up to now is currently no free status. And from the outbreak investigation, it can see that actually there is the suspected horse that died from the disease before, about from February, from the epidemiological investigation to trace back. And from March, April is the peak time for the case and date. But up to now, to June, July, and August is like the sporadic. There are some new cases reported daily. And this is the control measures in Thailand. Before going to the discussion later, just want to let you know what are the measures. The first one is about the clinical observation and health monitoring that conducted by the veterinarian. And that we need the good cooperation with the horse persons to help for this also. And also the movement control. including the international and domestic. For the international, we ban any importation of horse from other countries, and within the countries also horse have to be restricted movement, especially in the infected area, cannot be moved to other places. And the third control measures is the vector control. As you can hear before, we use the net, like the insect net, and also used with the insect repellent and insecticide to control the insect vector, because this virus is transmitted by the insect vectors. And the vaccination campaigns, we did like the strategic vaccination controlled by the Department of Livestock Development for the authorities, that is the DLD. And we also have the movement control after vaccination. After vaccination, all horses have to be prohibited to move and have to be in the insect control environment in the net for 30 days. And establishment of the containment zone. We are trying to the spot that show in the map that's become the containment zone in the future, and will be like a zone that will be have the the measures for the movement that's different from other zones. And the zebra surveillance and study also conducted by the a task force for zebra. They tested all as a representative of the zebra in Thailand, and the subcommittee, this task force found that there are about 700 zebra in Thailand. And insect vector surveillance and study, we also have the task force to study and surveillance for the insect vector. And some of the studies from the result show that we found the biting midges, Culicoides, and the same species as the found in the African countries. That's the Culicoides imicola. But we cannot detect the virus from the insects because it's quite difficult. Every technical person knows that. But actually we know that we found this insect vector in the same the area that horse living. And the study on horse stakeholder analysis, because this is the first time we also learn from this disease, because we don't know much about the, we don't know much about the horse, who is the stakeholders. In horse industry is, actually we don't have only the horse racing, equestrian like the sport and working horse. Maybe some other horses have to be known, because if we know this, when we deal with the disease, tackle with the outbreak, it's good that we will how to communicate or how to deal with the different stakeholders. So we are conducting this study. And also the public-private partnership, that's we have the MOU about the collaboration on the African horse sickness eradication, led by the DLD, signed the MOU with 17 different sectors. And also we plan to reinstate the AHS free status of Thailand to get the free status for the OIE. That's gonna be the base one for all over countries. And this is a little bit in details, but I try to summarize. The movement procedure after African horse sickness vaccination. This is the recent measures. The first one, all horses have to be installed we call the national identification system. They have to get the national identification system, and then health check and verify the background before movement. If they are from the dirty zone, let's say the dirty zone means infected zone or the no new cases, and there's less than 30 days, we still define it as the dirty zone. In this zone, or in just infected farm, horses have to stay in net and in the insect control environment. And horses in the same district, 50 kilometers around that, have to vaccinate it more than 40 days before movement and can move only in the same zone. And the far away district from 50 to 100 kilometers around the infected farm, they have to move only in the same zone or adjacent provinces. And other districts outside the 100 kilometers, horse can move to other provinces in the same area. This is for the dirty zone. Let's say what about the clean zone? In the clean zone, that means no new cases and death more than 90 days. Horse, within all 100 kilometers, horse can move in the same zone, same as the number 1 and number 2. And when they want to move outside the zone, have to be quarantined for 21 days in net and insect repellent, and have to do the laboratory check before movement on day 14 during the quarantine. And other provinces, horse can move to another province but do not pass the dirty zone. This is just a summary. And all of them have to be to do the insect control and prevention during the movement. And this is the example of the public-private partnership that we have the MOU among DLD and other 17 institutions to collaborate about the African horse sickness control and eradication in Thailand. That these events occur in 14th of July. And this is example of the stakeholder analysis. As I mentioned before, we don't know much about the horse activity. So our colleagues from the university and also Dr. Siraya is as this team also. They try to interview and know as much as possible for the horse activity and also the opinion of the horse owner and the people who related to the horse. And this is just for example. In Thailand, we have the horse for Buddhist ordination ceremony. This is just an example. If we don't do the stakeholder analysis, we don't know much about this before. And this is just for example. I will not speak in the details of this. But we have to know all people or things that related to the industry of in the sub-cluster of that kind of horse. Not only the horse for the ceremony. This project team are doing all to cover all horses industry in Thailand. And that I just want to present as first. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dr. Sid, for an excellent and thorough analysis. I must say I only learnt tonight that one of the amongst the considerable number of horse farms and horse owners in Thailand, that Buddhist temples are also owners, because a lot of people who can't afford horses maybe have too many, give them to temples. So I gather there's quite a few monks up north who ride around bareback in their robes on horseback. So it's interesting how pervasive or how far-reaching horse owning is in Thailand. Just gives us an idea of how much it's affecting the society. Anyway, we're going to turn next to our veterinarian expert, Dr. Siria Chunakamrai, who has been involved with the task force on AHS and heavily involved in the whole campaign to eradicate it in Thailand. So over to you, Dr. Siria.
Hi, thanks. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
right,
maybe
great.
Speak up a bit.
Okay. I'm a private practitioner. I am also I'm an equine veterinarian. Many of you already know me. But I'm involved in this because I'm also on the task force that works alongside with the DLD, as well as academics from Gasetsat University and vets in the field. So my role in this is various, probably, but I wanted to point out a few things with this dilemma or this huge problem we're facing. It's almost like you're facing a dragon, and then you know that you have to slay a dragon. So this whole thing is, how do you slay a dragon without a sword, without any weapons? In other words, how do you eradicate African horse sickness without any knowledge or any tools or any vaccine? And that's the task that we're faced with. So you can't look for just one single person to be doing that. You can't look to just a government unit to do that. It takes everybody to help each other. Even as I was listening to Kun Pan talk about what he went through, do you know that the measures that we strongly instilled about vector protection came from the example that on his farm, he managed to stop the disease in its track, proving that vector protection is truly the way we have to go. And that's why we advocated vector protection as a first measure, even before we had vaccines coming in. Now, a lot of this were knowledge that was, we are so grateful that was collaborated for us from experts in South Africa and OIE and EU. So therefore, measures that Dr. Sid presented didn't come out like that. In Thai, we say, nang tian kian. It didn't come from lighting a candle and then coming up with those measures. It actually came from very good strategic planning that also was collaboration from overseas experts. However, the situation changes every day. So we can't keep on saying that, well, it was this way yesterday and how come now it's changed? Because the disease, right now, we can already see that it is contained, but it's not over yet. So that, I don't have to reiterate that. Dr. Sid clearly showed that. It is contained, but it's not over yet. And when I say that, actually, everybody here that's involved should pat themselves on the back, including people in the front lines, people who own horses, because what you've done to follow these measures actually didn't only save your horses, it actually helped to stop the spread in so many places. When disease is occurring now, it's occurring sporadically, smaller pockets, sporadic cases, but all within the zone. So it's not a surprise. These are predicted zones. But that's not enough. We really need to work harder to eradicate it. However, to get there, many of the things that we've learned now are things that we could learn and how to move forward. Because I guess I'm a fixated person because I only look on how you can move forward. And if whatever is said, done, or talked about doesn't create movement forward, I really don't give a something like that. Give a okay. No. So I think that it's in the right spirit where we're at. I believe that everybody feeling concerned is also in the right spirit. Why? Because when we talk a lot about, and I'll answer some questions and things that people have in their minds. For instance, is there a second wave right now? I'd like to say that no, the first wave ain't even over yet. So don't even talk about the second wave, all right? So what does it mean? It means that we still have to be vigilant. Let's be real. We have horses that are protected, and that's great, but we still have to be vigilant. We know that the vaccine works. How do we know? Because the cases that we're controlling now, we're not seeing the big outbreak that we saw before. Second, horses are being reinfected. That means that we have virus and midges still in our environment. That's why we should not throw away all our nets. I mean, you know that why would we put up really good nets and then we just throw them away? In Cambodia, they put up nets and they still have them on, and they don't even have vaccines yet. So I think that there are a lot of very good points and parts that we could see coming out of it. I guess I would have no idea if we're doing the right thing or not had we not had any examples from overseas. So we looked at what happened in Spain. We looked at what happened in Morocco. In both these cases, what they selected to do is not what we did. What we did is much more strategic. And even though we have less horses, we're from a poorer country, but we are managing the disease at a much rapid rate than what they did. We cannot afford to have the disease again next year. We can't keep on having it again. That's why when people say, why don't you just vaccinate the entire country like Morocco? Well, they did it, and then they had to have the disease again for 6 years. We cannot afford that. We need to end it now. That's why everything that is laid out in the DLD's plan is strategic. And when we think about it, it's not just about Thailand. What do you think would happen if this disease entered Cambodia or Laos or Myanmar? Horses there, ponies there are livelihood. It will impact them greatly. But what's more is that African horse sickness will create a red zone here in Suvarnabhumi. It will go nowhere. We will never be disease-free. That's why it's so important that there's only one country here that can control it, and that's Thailand. So I know that all of us, sometimes we're mad, sometimes we're frustrated, sometimes we're sad about things, but honestly, we've come so far, and we need to root for this to really happen, because we got to eradicate it, and we can't do it only one person at a time. We have to all do it together. So I really hope that everybody provides strong support to back all of this up. If you see something that's happening that is not according to measures, someone is not reporting cases, someone is moving horses, someone does not want to vaccinate, all this should be reported into any horse vet that you know, actually, any horse vet that you know, or directly into DLD. So, in fact, do both, because we're all connected, and therefore we can help each other be vigilant about what's happening and what's not. I won't keep on going on and on, because I know that you might have questions, and there are still 2 more speakers, so I would save all that for later. I wanted to point one last thing out, is that when Dr. Sit talked about the stakeholders mapping, one positive thing that really came out of this is we have so many Thai ponies in Thailand, and it's awesome. Yay. So I'm actually, Thai ponies are a world heritage, if you didn't know. And that's why it's even more important that we cannot let these Thai ponies, who are also livelihood for a lot of communities, die. So we have to save them. Okay, so thank you very much. I'll answer questions later.
Thanks, Dr. Syria. We'll certainly come back to you. I know you have a lot more to say, and you've been dealing with a lot of queries via social media and amongst the horse-owning community, so we will come back to that. Maybe you could also later on make it clear to the uninitiated what a Thai pony is as opposed to other kinds of horses, because maybe non-horsey people don't fully understand the significance of the Thai pony. But we'll come back to that, and I'd like to turn now to our second last speaker, Dr. Nopidon, who runs a Morpor farm, amongst many other things you do, and also had the terrible experience, like Kun Prithviraj, of losing his horses. So over to you, Dr. Nopidon.
Thank you, Gwen. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here tonight. And good evening, everyone. Like Kun Pan, I lost many horses, 18 in total, out of 60. It all started on the 24th of March when the first horse died, and the vet just told me to dig a hole and bury the horse. She wouldn't even come to see it because she said there's a contagious disease going around. Now, over 9 days, I lost 18 horses, two horses a day. Most of them were imported Spanish Andalusian horses for pleasure riding. Some were Thai ponies. Now, soon after the first death, it became known that this was African horse sickness disease. And a friend of mine called Professor Ched, who has contact at the Ministry of Agriculture, arranged for a meeting with the Deputy Minister, and which we did, I think, in the first week of April. And there were many, many people who were there, including representatives from the Department of Livestock, and we asked them to form a working committee to eradicate the disease. And ever since, I've been sitting on 2 committees. One is the main committee to control and eradicate the disease, and the other is actually to look after and control the zebras. I think we all know now that it's beyond any doubt, zebras is the original cause of imported zebras, were the original cause of the disease. Some people in the government still argue that. I don't know what the hell they're talking about, but obviously they don't want to put fingers on their own fault. Now, after we all spoke, I'll be delighted to answer any questions because I've been involved with the government or governmental bodies. And certainly there are politics involved here, lots and lots of politics, lots and lots of cover-up, and very little transparency. There are about 4 or 5 places. Some are open zoos, some are front as a zoo, but in fact they're just merchants selling zebras to China for whatever reason. First of all, I'd like to commend the Department of Livestock and most of all the vets involved, like Dr. Syria and Dr. Ari and many other vets who all volunteer to mastermind the vaccination program and also to put up all the nettings. I think the most important reason why we almost eradicated the disease is the netting. It was so obvious that after the net went on, very few horses died. The vaccine only came along later because we had to wait a month for it to work. But the vaccine did prevent horses which were reinfected from dying. Now, however, I think the Department of Livestock could do much better than what they're doing. For example, the vaccination program is not thorough. I don't know how many percentage we vaccinated horses, but there are some stables, some stakeholders who refuse to have their horses vaccinated for various reasons. Secondly, the looking after the zebras. We have, the Department of Livestock have the ultimate authority to do whatever they want with the zebras because it's a contagious disease. But they seem to be, in Thai, we call it greng jai, okay? Basically, they're far, far too diplomatic about this. Basically, whatever they want to do to the zebras, they say, well, we have to ask them politely before we go in, I have a vet who's a friend from Europe, and he said, why the hell haven't you killed them all? Well, maybe they should, maybe we should, I don't know, but certainly, for many months now, we thought the Department of Livestock has actually put down the rule that zebras have to be under the nettings. But we just learned recently that they were still roaming around freely. And just last Friday when we had a meeting with the department, they said, we have now laid down the rules for these places. And zebras have to be inside at night. And I thought, what the hell does that mean? So during the daytime they can be outside? Yes, of course, they're zebras, they're wildlife animals. So you can't just restrict them to indoors. Well, I'm not surprised why we still have the virus going around now, because zebras are still roaming around. And so what I ask the press, the journalists, to give to the public the notion that there are politics involved in this crisis, and zebras are being treated like God here, whereas our horses are dying like fallen leaves in autumn. And I'll be happy to answer any questions, which I know are facts, and facts are first here. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Nopidon. That was very illuminating, particularly about the role of zebras. Whether they're treated like God or not, they certainly seem to have a certain way to get into Thailand, and amidst the COVID situation. It's quite interesting, the parallels and the different standards that seem to apply on things like quarantine and other procedures. We'll come back to that one. Our last but not least panellist is Margot Toei, who's done some excellent work reporting on the African horse sickness for Bloomberg News, and is also a keen horsewoman. So, Margot, over to you, perhaps for an overview, or from the journalistic viewpoint, perhaps you can fill in or look at some of the gaps in the presentations, and we'll then turn to questions. A reminder, if you're watching on Facebook, we will take questions over Facebook. So over to you now, Marco.
My story for Bloomberg News was very much focusing on how African horse sickness was introduced to Thailand by wild animals, and how the risk remains globally of wildlife trading, whether legal or illegal, of introducing pathogens such as African horse sickness, COVID, SARS. There's a whole range of them. Of course, when the horses started to die, nobody knew what it was, and of course people looked locally. Bats in Thailand are known to carry a form of virus. It's not coronavirus, but it's a similar virus that can jump to humans and has killed. Hendra virus, it's called. It killed people in Australia. I don't believe it's killed people beyond that. But the whole outbreak of African horse sickness here, to me, really illustrates how fragile and interconnected animals and humans are, and how important it is to have experts like the people we have on the panel tonight, all working together, whether they're looking at animal illnesses, human illnesses, the movement of insects, how vectors carry one virus to another. These are the sort of issues that are very, very important to us, particularly now in the middle of a COVID, coronavirus epidemic that doesn't look like slowing down anytime soon. What everybody on this panel has experienced and continues to experience is all part of the same thing that coronavirus is. It's just a focus on horses. It could be something that jumped from horses to humans, like Hendra. It wasn't. And at this point, the most important thing is for everybody involved to work together, to work interconnectedly, whether they're an owner, whether they're a veterinarian, whether they're a virologist, whether they're a bureaucrat, to make sure that the whole system is strong, and this is contained, and it can be, and it doesn't get out of control. If this moves beyond the area that it is, as has been referenced before. If it gets into Cambodia, into Laos, into Burma, it's out of control. And there's an enormous number of mules which haven't been referenced, mules and donkeys. Donkeys are asymptomatic, as are horses, so they can carry and distribute, well, not distribute, but they can be hosts of the virus. Nobody will know. It's like people walking around with coronavirus who are asymptomatic. Nobody knows that they're infected unless they're tested. This is why it's very, very important for this to be taken so seriously at the highest levels, which possibly it isn't. I don't know, I'm just a journalist, I'm an observer.
Can you speak closer to the microphone, please?
Sorry, yeah. Yeah, I'm just saying that it really needs to be contained at a very high policy level to ensure that all of the players within are following the rules, are made to following the rules. As for the zebras, well, they came in because there was a huge biosecurity hole. They didn't need to be tested. That's been closed. Why it happened needs to be addressed. Who allowed it needs to be addressed. For the international community to have to believe in Thailand, to believe that there is transparency, that there is the rule of law. That's all I have to say. Let's open it to questions.
Thank you. Thanks, Margot, for that. I think a lot in the room would agree with you. I think we'll turn straight to questions because we're at 8:30. We have one question up there, Brooke, maybe, and then we can take questions from the floor, including in Thai, if Thai media want to ask in Thai. I think our panellists are all bilingual, so so please identify yourself. There's a microphone here. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Gwen. I'm Brooke Telwright. My interest is purely
microphone, please. I think it's, yeah. Is it on?
It's on. It's on.
Okay, yeah.
I'll try again.
Yeah, that's better.
Brooke Telwright. My interest is purely as a rider and horse lover. I'd like to thank the panel for a very informative discussion. And it's great news that the disease is contained and hopefully moving towards eradication. I think, like many people, I was very surprised to hear that there are 700 zebras in Thailand. I kind of wonder, the news that I think my question perhaps is for Dr. Sit, but for any member of the panel. The news that they are not subject to the same restrictions is very worrying. And, you know, it raises so many questions, particularly about transshipment and why that's happening through Thailand. But I think the question I'd, maybe like to focus on is, you mentioned a list of stakeholders that's being compiled here. Is that going to include the owners and importers of the zebra?
For this, yes, we have to understand the zebra also. Yep. Yep. In this analysis.
May I add to that? We basically, the Department of Livestock, looked into imported zebras within the last 3 years, and they came up with, I think, 5 companies. Some are open zoos, some are just merchants, like Noam did mention. Now, and 4 out of those 6 had recently had blood tests on the random selection of zebras, and 4 of them actually were tested positive. Now, positive meaning they actually found the virus in those zebras, not just antibodies. So those zebras, so there are many hundreds of zebras roaming around now with carrying the virus at the moment. Now, what I can tell you is this. In one of the companies, They did a blood test on 145 zebras December last year. They came to the committee, which was set up by the Department of Livestock after the outbreak, and we interviewed them. And the vet, who's Burmese, this company is funnily run by a Chinese and a Burmese, and the front is a zoo, but in fact just like a holding place to export horses, zebras to China. And he stood up and said, we took 145 samples of blood from our zebras for the purpose of exportation. The blood was sent to the Department of Livestock, and many of them were positive, so we didn't export them. So we were aghast by the knowledge of that. They knew that their zebras had positive African horse sickness back in December last year. That's what it's actually in the report of the meeting from December last year.
That's a pretty serious finding, I would say.
I don't know if Dr. Sid.
May I explain more about the law, about the law of the Animal Epidemics Act, that before this outbreak occur, the zebra is not in the list of the Animal Epidemics Act. So and after that, our minister already add the zebra into this. So by legally, from now onwards, we will test all the imported zebra, and the importation of the zebra will not be easy anymore, because they need like we have to do like health requirements, and have to investigate the country or the area that would like to import the zebra into Thailand. I mean from now onwards.
But you would have thought that if we found that some zebras, several tens, 20s, had this disease, you would alert, the red light would be going up. But nothing happened.
Right.
Anyway,
well,
sorry, go on.
I think we could also ask after your question,
sure.
why. I mean, I'm very intrigued
Dr.
about
Seth.
what these zebras are being, why they're being transshipped to China.
Yes.
But anyway, please identify yourself and maybe.
My name is Linda Tantiwong. I have North Star Equestrian Center. I have 45 horses I love. Kun Pan, I respect you for standing with your horses and not running out of Pak Chong like the rest did. Thank you, Dr. Nopidon, for saying what we're feeling. Now, Dr. Sith, I get it. You have all these things in place now. Why are the zebras still alive? I'm an animal lover. I have 4 pigs, 200 chickens. Swine flu came here, you would walk on my property and you would kill my pigs. If avian flu was here, DLD would walk on my property and kill my chickens. Correct? Yes. Why are the zebras exempt? 45 horses, 16 people working. I buy hay from the farmers. I buy so much that to keep this farm going. Why are the zebras so special? Is it that much corruption? We all know who it is, and we all know who's, I can't say the name because it's not worth my life, but we know. And you need to know we all know. And I'm angry. I have 45 horses right now in my farm. They're swelling under the neck. They're swelling in their eyes. And the zebras are out eating grass during the day. Why? Answer me, please.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
think that puts the zebra question in very stark terms.
Thank you. And you are agree, and I'm not sure that I can answer all that you need, but
Dr.
I will
Sid,
try.
you
Let
would
him-
kill
let him-
my pigs.
but
you
let
would
him-
kill my chickens.
Let him finish, please. Over to you.
Okay, for the zebra, actually it depends on the group of the task force that as a group of experts. So the decision makers will depends will also depends on this group. So I'm not sure that I can answer this.
Can I just ask? Can you please leave him out of this? This is the first time I met him. Obviously, he's been put on the podium here. I know. I can tell you why. Because we discussed this very point last Friday, just Friday gone. And everyone was saying to the Deputy Director General, the one from the Director General, there were two of them sitting there and we asked exact same questions. And they said, we can only suggest to these zebras owners to please try to put them under the net for as long as you could, but we cannot enforce them. That's the straight answers from the top of the Department of Livestock, two of them.
But are they not under Department of Livestock now?
Yes, the Director General Kun Sarawit told me the government, the Department of Livestock, has every right to go in and kill them all if they want to. But they're being diplomatic for God knows whatever reason.
Where's the diplomacy to my horses and yours?
We asked the same questions. Like
Would
I said,
any other panelists
brainchild.
like to add to that?
Yeah.
Kunnara, from the TEF point of view, you have a zebra subcommittee,
He
right?
was at the meeting too. We all asked the same question.
Okay.
Like I said, zebras are goddess.
Dr. Syria, do you have anything from the veterinary point of view about zebras?
I guess there's also alternatives to euthanasia. And the only country that ever did that was Spain, because they imported 16 and they killed them. Spain did not necessarily contain it that well either. So it doesn't really answer the immediate thing that we're doing. I'm not saying that it is one option, euthanasia. The
Of
second
700 zebras.
of several hundred zebras. When zebras are infected, you will see a longer lasting blood test result. But zebras are not reservoirs, which means that they can only transmit the disease for a certain period of time, longer than horses, but probably only 40 days. So therefore, in reality, if all the zebras infected themselves, no, I meant if they infected themselves, they would all have immunity. And that's that.
But they should be under the netting.
That's
I'm
right.
I'm not saying they should be killed, but they should be under the proper netting. 24 hours, 7.
Therefore, we have all these options. So one is euthanasia. So if we're not going to opt for euthanasia, the other one is really be serious about what we're talking about when we say under vector protection. I agree. We have to be serious with that. Also movement control. And beyond that, they also have to have no breeding, because they can carry and then give to offspring, and then it goes on and on. So no breeding cycle within 2 years. Within these 2 years.
Okay.
Well, they got to find a way. And the third thing that has to be done is also we could plant sentinels, meaning we could have susceptible donkeys or mules within the zebra group, so we could continuously monitor them. Do you know how cumbersome it is to actually anesthetize each zebra to get blood? It is just a huge production and very costly. But if we can have sentinels, that would make the best sense. So this is the second option. The third option is actually to vaccinate the zebras. Now, vaccinating zebras, there's no scientific evidence that it works or not. We don't know if the vaccine could backfire in any way. And to vaccinate them, again, there would have to be capture, they would have to be restrained, anesthetic done, and then vaccinated. So it's a little bit more cumbersome. So that's why the second measure, if done well, is potentially a potentially good solution. Now,
Okay.
I cannot say which one would be chosen upon. This is under the recommendation also from world authorities.
Right.
But this is also subject to policy of the government officials.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Sirio. I think there is a big question also hanging about why there are so many zebras, and also this transshipment issue and why they're going to China. Are they for handbags, eating, whatever? So that also is a big question. We might turn back to that after Steve Golster of Freeland, who would like to ask a question. Over to you, Steve.
Thank you. My name's Steve Gelster. I'm the chairman of Freeland, counter wildlife trafficking organization. First of all, thank you for having this very important event. And my condolences to the horses and to the horse owners. I know that these were big losses, and I know that it's not just money. These are your friends, and you develop a relationship. And so my condolences to you. Thank you also, Om, for your shout out about the partnership between BGRIM and Freeland. My concern is that, I think you've all done an excellent job containing this. Once it broke out, the livestock department, the horse owners working all together, the partnership, I've heard a lot about it, and I know it's been very difficult. My concern is that this is going to happen again. And maybe next time it's not going to be zebras, it's going to be some other animal passing it on to another animal. Maybe it's going to be the swine flu, bird flu. Maybe it's going to kill other kinds of animals. Maybe it's going to kill people, or both. I think this country has done an excellent job with COVID-19, but they have left one door open, and that is the wildlife trade. And as we've seen here with this example of the African horse sickness, both legal and illegal wildlife trade can carry pathogens for which people might not have an immune response, or another animal may not have the immune response. So I think the best long-term solution, the best vaccine against this pandemic that you're talking about, or any other pandemic, is to just ban commercial trade in wild animals across this country's borders. Why do we have zebras here? Why do we need giraffes? Or hippos, or orangutans, or chimpanzees and gorillas? We've got all these animals here. It's a tiny percentage of people who are making money on this. And frankly speaking, some of them are criminals. So why should the rest of us and the animals that deserve a free, life suffer from that? I do think we do know who some of the people who are behind that trade are. We won't name names here, but
feel free.
We could spend we could spend decades from now fighting that, because a lot of it's legal trade, and the legal trade masks an illegal trade. But I think the way to fight that kind of power is through the law, it's through governance, and I think everybody here, we would invite you, along with BGRIM, to get on the same side and ask this government, protect the animals, protect the people. You've done such a good job on COVID-19. They've done a good job on COVID-19, but they can become the world's first country to ban commercial trade in wild animals and become the top leader in the world on what we call a One Health approach.
Right.
That's what I'm appealing for. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve. But I think taking up on the point you raised, and to Dr. Sitt, who, can I just make it very clear that the FCCT asked the Department of Livestock Development under the Ministry of Agriculture very strongly to send a representative tonight, and it was Dr. Sitt who was unfortunate enough to be nominated to come along, and as was pointed out by Dr. Nopidon, Dr. Sitt is a veterinary expert with DLD, and I feel it's very difficult for you to answer some of these questions, but I do think that what's interesting is the prevalence of zebras in the imported life trade. Definitely there are not 700 giraffes in Thailand, for example, or many other such exotic animals. I am just curious about what the zebra thing is. Are they mostly for transshipment? And is it different rules for transshipment of animals to importing? And why are they going to China? Is it for food, handbags, zoos, private zoos? Maybe you could throw some light on it. Thank you. Let him talk, please.
Okay, let me say the background
Could you
of the...
talk closer into the microphone, please?
Okay, let's I explain some of the Animal Epidemics Acts. These acts is empowered veterinary authority to control the animal disease, and we include some wildlife or exotic animal into our law already. But as the epidemiologist who working with the DLD, I will help myself will help explore what kind of animals and that the exotic or wildlife that we miss something about this, and will help propose to the DLD to add that to in order to prevent the exotic disease, virus or other diseases. Also, that's the one that can be do, and we can also learn from the African horse sickness. Yes.
Right.
And to answer your question, at the meeting last Friday, we actually will propose to the DLD that all wildlife will come under the Epidemic Act, which means they'll be scrutinized by the Department of Livestock.
Which act?
Well, the official name I've just heard.
Official name is Animal Epidemics Act. Yes.
Which means animals which can
Animal
have
Epidemic
contagious
Act,
diseases.
right.
So these will, and to answer your question, why are there so many zebras here? Well, zebras, especially the species which are imported, are not under the CITES agreement.
They're outside CITES.
In other words,
unlike elephants and things like that.
They can be brought in just like dogs and cats.
I see. Thank you. That was very illuminating. I'd like to turn to our Vice President, Jonathan Head, who has been monitoring questions over Facebook.
Yeah, there's a couple, Gwen. But at this one...
and maybe you could say who they're from.
Yes, this is from somebody called Suzanne Munsterman. She's asking a couple of points, probably just clarifications. She's asking how many Thai ponies, mules and donkeys there are in Thailand. Do we have any idea of the population and whether the mules and donkeys are also being vaccinated? And she's also asking whether zebras that have been recently imported are being held together with zebras that have been living here for a very long time, or is there some separation of those? I don't know whether anybody can actually answer those questions. Have those
Well, I think it's an excellent couple of questions. Dr. Sit, do you know? Can you comment on that? And maybe Dr. Syria has a view on that.
I did not come with statistics, sorry about that, but horses included donkey and mule is 18,000. Sorry, 18,000. And there are some but it's like the hundreds of mule and donkey. But sorry that I did not bring the statistics now.
Are they being treated the same way as horses in terms of risk?
Yeah. Are they being vaccinated?
Not include in the vaccination campaign. That's because the area
are different.
Yes, the area is different, so not include in this.
And what about the zebras? Are the recently imported zebras kept separate from the ones who've been here a very long time and where their health condition might be better known?
Okay, Jonathan, maybe I can answer that question. Notably, there are 5 importers in the past 3 years. One is called Raylinker Company, and they imported about 400 zebras over the past 3 years, and they keep their zebras at Chachoengsao. And as far as we know, and as far as they testify in our committee, none of their zebras leave that premises. They exported 10 zebras to China, all of which were culled when the Chinese found out they were carrying diseases. And Safari World imported 60 zebras, and they were put in, I mean, Dr. Monon can correct me if I'm wrong, they keep the zebras at Prachinburi, and as far as we know, that's where they're kept. So I'm not sure, and we are wondering whether some of the zebras there actually go to the one, the opens in Minburi, and that will be a disastrous point. And a few goes up to Sukhothai. There's a Sukhothai zoo. But obviously, that's what we always wonder. Are there, transportation zebras, infected zebras, from one place to another? For example, the disease started in Pak Chong, Khao Yai, where our farms are. But a few days after that, horses start dying in Hua Hin. Hua Hin. So we wonder whether there were some zebras going across to Hua Hin from Chacheng Sao or not. I have no idea, to be honest.
Is there a Mr. or Mrs. Big in the zebra importing world? Is there one person who's a key to all of this?
My lips are sealed.
So whoever it is somebody that is not safe for us to
Well,
start.
it can't be just the layman, I don't think the layman could do what they're doing now.
Well, I think building on Jonathan's question, I will say again, I'm just interested in, these zebras are brought in as transshipment.
Exactly.
Therefore, destination not Thailand. Therefore, not intended as part of, to be staying in Thailand. What is the purpose of zebra importation in China? Is it for handbags, private zoos, food? Does anyone know?
We don't know, to be honest.
Right, and why transship through Thailand? That's the other question. Dr. Sit, do you know? Or Margot, you might have done some investigation.
My understanding is that the biosecurity law was changed several years ago to remove, and please correct me if I'm wrong, to remove zebras from screening on export or import.
Well,
and
especially if they're not under CITES, I suppose it makes it
and that created a gateway for them to come in. They weren't even subjected to the same biosecurity checks as a family pet,
or
for
a giraffe.
example, or a giraffe, or a cat or a dog. So the zebras could come in without any biosecurity checking after they were removed. Once African horse sickness arose, the DLD stepped in and reimposed the biosecurity checks.
Yeah,
So my understanding is for a period of 5 years, the zebras could be imported without any biosecurity checks.
But that's over now.
That's over now.
Yeah, there are two separate bills. One's for the disease, and African horse disease is under the bill of the epidemic, animal contagious diseases. But the zebras are not, which is really funny, and everyone's wondering. It's called Prachabanjat.
But can anyone tell me why, from Africa, Thailand is the key transshipment point?
Somebody told me that the NGOs are watching China because,
So it's easier to sneak them in as Thai zebras rather than
it's like
African
money
zebras.
laundering.
Interesting. That's very interesting.
I'm just interested
somebody else might-
that Dr. Nopidon says it's a sensitive issue, but does there need to be a secret about who is the key zebra importer here? I mean, they may be blameless, or is it so sensitive we just can't? I mean, it's one thing to say this person's responsible.
Who would you like to ask that question to?
Well, I don't. Well, I just don't see the need for secrecy if there is one person who's key to the bringing in of zebras here. Whether or not they are at fault in this or not, I don't know.
Right.
I'm surprised. If it isn't somebody very, very big, I assume we could say who it is.
Yeah, I gather, I mean, it's already been mentioned, there are certain zoo parks, animal parks that are on record.
Well, at the beginning of this outbreak, there were rumors that it could be somebody high up in the government, names, but it has not been proven. So I'd rather not mention names which are not.
So we don't know, basically. We don't know who's the key zebra importer. It's sort of, it might be this or it might be that. Is it the lack of precision? Because there's not.
We all know the name of the owner of Raylinka's company, which imports these zebras. You all know who the owner of Safari World. I mean, we all know who he is. Yeah, we know that, but we don't know whether his zebras are the culprit, or many of them, because they all imported at the same time.
Understood.
Right. Thank you. I think there's someone else who... oh, sorry. Yes, Dr. Syria, please just...
Yes, I wanted just to elucidate that actually the Department of Livestock Department, or whatever, DLD, was not the main department that allowed these import-exports of zebras. It was DNP. So would it be better if we invite them to come for a panel discussion? Why they didn't do something about it? Yes, please. And also, this is an issue that's been ongoing for a while. Why are the loopholes there? I'm going to give it back to Karen to have the question, but just quickly to remind you that actually the transmission of disease from place to place, it's by midges. Midges are very small. They're tiny. They can travel. They can't fly far, but the wind can carry them hundreds of kilometers. The zebra farms, no matter whichever one that Dr. Nopidon had mentioned, they're not that far from each other. So whichever one brought it in, and we might have some clue of who brought it in, it actually has already infected the population that was existing anyway. And in fact, if zebras that are within the vicinity of horses that have outbreaks, they could equally be infected by horses around as well. So when we speculate that who brought it in, who brought it out, right now it's like the whole house is on fire. So you don't really have to find out, did it start at the kitchen or did it start at the bathroom? That's sort of how I'm saying.
I think what you're saying also, if I'm correct, is that whatever certain quarantine or biosecurity measures were not followed. It's not illegal to import or transship zebras, but there were certain regulations, I gather, that were not followed. I don't know if DLD requires netting of zebras that were imported and that was disregarded. Is there a certain violation of regulations? Were laws broken? Dr. Sid? No?
Do you mean once they imported or once the outbreak occurred?
No, once they were imported.
No,
was there any violation of
No.
regulations to keep them under netting or check if they're infected?
Everything went by the book.
So there's nothing illegal?
No, nothing illegal. The Department of Wildlife, who's responsible for authorizing the importation of zebras, did everything under the law.
Right.
The law sucks.
So
That's what it is.
So up to now, despite the death of all these horses, there is nothing illegal. Is that correct?
Nothing. Because
correct,
zebras
Dr.
of these
Sid?
two species were not under the CITES regulation. So, like I said, it's so easy to import them like dogs and cats. You just bring them over.
But the fact that in December, or if it's true that blood testing of 145 zebras showed that they were infected with AHS.
That's what the Burmese vet told us.
There was nothing illegal?
Getting caught up here.
Well, the importation of zebras was legal.
Right.
Using the loophole of the law of the land. In other words, the owner, okay, if I want to import zebras, I just have to apply for the importation permit.
Like bringing in a cat or a dog?
Yeah. And South Africa just have to show me the health certificate, with a tick saying...
So no quarantine procedure,
nothing.
no netting,
Nothing.
no biosecurity?
You just bring them
Right.
in,
Okay.
and they get on a truck and go to your home.
It was also under the Department of National Parks and Wildlife. It was not under DLD.
Right.
They only moved under DLD earlier this year when AHS broke out, and biosecurity requirements have been imposed.
Thank you. Is that correct, Dr. Sid? Right. Thank you. Okay, I think we're down to the last question. If any Thai media in this room want to ask a question also, you can ask a question in Thai, but please ask your question, identify yourself.
Hi, I'm Karen Wainwright. I'm a horse owner, and I'd like to ask, why isn't the vaccination being enforced, especially in the epidemic areas? Because there are some people refusing to vaccinate.
Did you get that question, that some people are refusing to vaccinate, and is there any enforcement of that?
Okay, by the law, we can do for our DG also said that we can do for, more for the law enforcement. But before using the law enforcement, we try to use more collaboration. But now this is the stage of evaluation after the vaccination program come up to now. Maybe we consider for the more on the law enforcement for the horses that avoid the vaccination.
Do you mean to force horse owners to vaccinate?
Yes. Yes.
At the moment, though, there is no law.
Yes, Karen?
They will be fined.
When is that likely to happen, do you think?
Only God knows. I've said this all along, and again, like I said, the Department of Livestock...
Can we have some silence over there, please?
Just very slack with enforcing the rules.
Right.
Extremely slack.
Extremely slack.
They don't give a shit, okay? They just don't want... The Department of Livestock just don't want to have fights with the public. You know?
Right. Thank you. We have time for one more question if anyone wants to ask one. Otherwise,
We need social pressure.
Steve, all right. One more bite of the apple, please.
It's kind of a repeat, but the thing I forgot to add is, I mean, we know there's 1.6 million viruses out there in nature, ready to be unleashed if we poke with nature the wrong way. And it's not just zebras. Right. And it could be any kind of animal, and it doesn't matter whether they have the proper papers or not.
Right.
When you push or pull a wild animal out of the environment, whether it's to send a bat to a lab, pick a pangolin out of the market in Wuhan, or bring a zebra into Thailand, this is what can happen.
Right.
So I think, as opposed to climate change, with this kind of issue, this pandemic or others, we can fix this problem with the stroke of a pen. Ban the commercial trade in wild animals, imports and exports, and we won't be talking about this anymore.
Thank you. Would you like to ask a question?
Can I?
And I would like to just turn to the panelists and ask if anybody would like to make a final...
Well, I'd like to add to your comment that if you've been here long enough, you know that Thai people have a knack of praising themselves for the good things they do, like smile, the line of a smile, like the temples. And when it comes to something illegal, unethical, evil, like prostitutions, like drug trafficking, like animal life trafficking, they don't want to talk about it, you know. But this is Thailand.
Do you think this will change Thai society in any way?
I hope so. I think it's getting better, but you know, I grew up knowing that with a place where you can go and go to the whorehouse around the corner and or get marijuana.
Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, this is Thailand.
I think it's changed a lot.
It's changed a lot for the better, I think.
So maybe one day we'll have zebra importation banned.
I think zebras will be banned from importing for now anyway.
Okay, but maybe it requires CITES to include zebras in...
There's so many different varieties. This is one particular...
To be honest, I think what we need to do is to have about 2,000 protesters to the government house with about 200 or 300 horses on the road.
Yeah. I think sadly there are thousands of protesters at the moment, but they're not worried about zebras or horses. Okay, final question goes to
one last one.
Mark
from
Laban of
AsiaWorks.
AsiaWorks. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, I'm just wondering again, coming back to this question of not identifying the person or persons who are behind the trade in zebras. is it a concern about defamation? Is that why we can't say who we're talking about? Is that what the issue is? I mean, is the person so influential that they'll slap somebody with a defamation suit and we can't talk about it openly?
You're implying it's a single person.
A single person or a group of persons?
Right.
It doesn't matter. But is that what's preventing us from talking about the truth here tonight? Kun Om?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, over to you, Kunnara.
Yeah, from what I understand, I mean, to answer this question, I mean, I think Kun Mo Boyce already stated about like the zebra case, because if we refer to like the zebra, importing zebra, is again we have to accept that it's not under the livestock department. Okay, it's under another forestry department. Okay, so now it's come to the after the law. I mean, the livestock department put the zebra under the what you call the agreement. So now it's time about to communicate more, how to prevent, how to get rid of, how to control this, which is I think we also seeking for the information as well. Okay, and as soon as we can come up with any solutions, again, as a Thailand Equestrian Federation, we in cooperation with every body, we would like to stop, we would like to eradicate, we want to get restatus. Thank you, Kap.
I believe that if Department of Livestock is sincere about solving the problem, it would be over and done with by now. It would have taken a week, because we know who imported zebras. It's easier than catching a thief, because we have all the documents.
Yeah, but what good would that do to the point is, like, there's two things. You can identify the perpetrators, but that doesn't help the situation, does it?
Can I say something? Yeah. Actually, whoever imported the zebras imported them legally.
Illegally.
Legally.
Yes, legally. Yes,
legally.
We've established there is no violation of law.
No violation of law. So really the question is, who changed the law to allow the zebras to be imported without biosecurity regulations? Why was that done, and how did they benefit?
Oh, so you're saying it used to be illegal, and
it was illegal, as I said before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It was illegal 5 years or so ago. The law was changed to allow the importation of zebras, whereby they were either residing in Thailand for fun parks or being transshipped to China.
Does
Someone
any
benefited.
panellist have any idea how or why? Oh, yes, Dr. Surya. Can we have some quiet back there, please?
I have a suggestion, and based on what Margot just said, she just gave me an inspiration. Now, I'm a vet, so I probe diseases. Who probes world scandals? Isn't it good journalism? Are you guys, anyone here that is good journalists? That's your job. Go probe it. Find out for us. We want to know too, because we're busy combating the disease. So please help us.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Okay, so on that note, I would like to thank our excellent panel, who I think really, went beyond their duty on information. Thank you very much. Also to Asia Works for excellent subtitling of the video, and also to Kun Tam, who's been handling the live stream tonight. Happy birthday. And thank you again to panelists. It really was a great discussion. And I hope something comes out of this. And please share the video with your friends. It'll all be on the FCCT Facebook. And don't forget about our programs next week. Thank you very much, everybody.